Hi, my name is Israel Vasquitelli, and welcome to the Turntable, a roundtable discussion featuring entertainment and music business grads, artists, and anyone with a vested interest in the music business. And today we have some amazing panelists, including a hip-hop artist that makes positive music from West Palm Beach, and that is FaceDaZoe. What's happening? How you doing?
What's going on, world? FaceDaZoe live in full effect.
There you go. Thank you for joining us. And we have a special treat. We have the co-producer of the Turntable and also a film grad, and that is Mr. Nestor Vera. Thank you so much for coming through.
Well, thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
You got it. You got it. And last but not least, we have Mr. Kevin Keith, a veteran in the hip-hop world, including hosted a radio show back in the 90s for almost a decade, hosting a TV show in New York City for about a decade, and also the current editor of Insomniac Magazine. Thanks so much for coming through.
Thank you, Iz.
Awesome. So today we're going to talk about branding. And the reason we're talking about that is that Mr. Face is currently rebranding.
Yeah,
so we figured this would be a good opportunity to talk a little bit about some of the things that maybe artists should be looking at and maybe get some insight from different folks. So first things first, if you don't mind, why don't you tell us a little bit about what or who Face is as an artist? Who is FaceDaZoe?
What's going on? FaceDaZoe is an international artist, originally from West Palm Beach, Florida, migrated to Orlando, became an artist my senior year of college, started having a lot of fun. I was known as the party guy, the fun guy, kind of in the streets with street music. But I had a turn in my life. So, I met Christ and God changed my life, and now my music is more to inspire, more to influence, more to help. So that's where I'm at with it right now.
Indeed. And I know you guys have worked together before on some projects. If you don't mind talking a little bit about that, and since you have more insight from a different perspective, talk a little bit about what you see as Face's previous brand, and then maybe we'll talk a little bit about how you're looking to change that.
Right. So I came in, I was actually mentoring the engineer that actually was working, engineer, producer, and artist, known as Young Major. And he basically introduced me and Face during one particular project called Pool Party. I heard that and I said, that is a summer anthem. That is definitely a summer anthem. We got to create a music video. We got to get it all, I just knew what I knew from, I wasn't part of the 3300 because, from transitioning, from learning how you have to do the steps of doing that, they were just rapping about the lifestyle that they were experiencing at the moment, the spring break lifestyle, the college.
It's a lot of fun and partying.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay.
And from that, Face really didn't curse much. He did his cursing, and then from the transition that he made into now, because that was the one thing I was talking to you about. I told you guys was going to kill you guys for that song, is that they never made a radio-friendly version. And I remember back in the 90s, there was always, you had to have a radio-friendly. Even though you could be explicit as you want, you just needed to have.
Let me tell you something. One of the worst, and you feel free to chime in, Kevin, because we both have a long history on radio. One of the worst things that could happen is for you to get a record that says clean, or the music that says clean version, and then you hit play, and
it's just barrage of curses flying out.
Exactly. And sometimes it's not that they don't have a clean version. Sometimes it's that they put it on the wrong side or they label it wrong. So yes, clean version's always a good thing if you're trying to get radio play. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So and that's the thing is that I it was funny because I remember the engineer telling me, he's like, how I had to wrangle these guys to get in here to do this one record, trying to get them to come back and do a clean version is going to be almost virtually impossible. But so we rode with it, and actually because of that song, Face got to actually tour internationally for it. And
nice.
It did very, very well international. And like I said, it's like he just kept on this, and then we fell out of touch for about a year, I think it was, maybe a little bit more.
A little bit more than a year.
And then because the artist, the producer, artist that I was working with, Mr. Cut, that was on the show previously, he actually touched base with Face, and when he came into town, we got together because of him. And when he told me what he was doing and the new music that he was putting out, and he was showing me, and I was just like, wow, that's a drastic change from what you used to be. But the thing is that you're in a lane that's very, very narrow. Like, not a lot of artists are doing what you're doing. So stay that route, because you are great as an artist, but this is going to make you what's going to make you different. And
that's a good question. To ask specifically where you are now, what would you say makes Face distinctive? What separates you from all of the other artists that are making music, but also maybe in your space?
To be honest, I don't really feel like there's other artists in my space, because I'm different.
That's a good thing.
I'm different.
That's a good thing.
My image, my style, my message.
You do have style. I know that. You can't see it. You'll see it later when he performs.
It's custom design. It's custom design.
And you got his unique style of dress, which that's what I always noticed about him, that he basically always had the same, like, swag.
Right.
And an artist needs swag.
Exactly.
Like, what do you think, Kevin, about that?
Well, actually, I really want to know, were you initially nervous about making that transition from party rap to something more positive, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes,
conscious.
I was.
But what was the catalyst for you doing that?
To be honest with you, I can tell you exactly how it happened. I was in a studio in Tampa with a couple of my buddies, and we were making a song. And, they were into the, no offense, the mumbling, rappling thing. And I know all of them. I went to school with them. We might have different, we all had past, but I know them. It's like, you guys got good music. You got quality music. Like, I can't do this forever, And at the time, I was just learning how to rap at the time. I said, no, I got a voice to influence. There's no way I would want to pollute the minds of you. The kids are like sponges. You don't want to give them something wrong. And from then on,
That's what happened.
that's what happened. It was a battle.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I think we need more of that, obviously. I mean, there's room for everything.
Yeah.
But I think that we do need more artists that are spreading positive messages, and I think that does kind of separate you from the pack, if you will.
Appreciate that.
Indeed. So let's talk a little bit about maybe some of the things that you're currently doing, and then maybe we could all chime in and talk a little bit about best practices or maybe advice.
Okay.
So currently, what exactly are you doing to get your brand and your music out?
Right now, I'm actually getting into the church. I'm getting into the churches right now. So I've been doing church events, church functions, youth events, and performing for the kids and getting the music into the population, I guess.
I like that, because in many ways that kind of creates that grassroots support system, which is important. And not every artist, could garner the support of their backyard, if you will. But that really is grassroots. So I would certainly say that that's a great way to go.
Yeah, actually, from going off of that, and actually a big name like McDonald's was actually one of the they wanted to be within the church. Like, they wanted type of thing. So, but like, even, I'm a product of 3300, you introduced me as the co-creator of this show. And I remember when we have Kevin's logo on his shirt right now is the older logo, which, it was nice. I like the MB because it stood for the music business. So we kind of incorporated in the same things, where we have the mug and like the new altimeter, the altimeter that it actually has, and the basically the it's just missing a plane. I actually had a friend that's a pilot and looked at my logo and was like, he was just like, hey. I was like, why do you have an altimeter on your chest? I just like, because that's the logo that is ours, but it's missing a plane. It's missing a plane. Well, we had to drop the plane because another logo is similar to the plane, so we don't want to cross brand that, and that's important, especially when you're branding yourself or rebranding, as we did with the 3300, because we had the plus in there. So we wanted it to be climbing because it's you're at the altitude and sky's the limit type of thing.
And as a side note, as a producer, this shows you what a producer does, right? Because I didn't quite get that. So he gave Kev a shirt earlier, and look at that. That's perfect. Like, being able to compare what we once looked like and what we're doing now. So I love that.
Yes.
Yeah, this guy's always on the ball. So let's talk a little bit about maybe some other or talk about best practices. So obviously, when you're an artist of any type, or actually a brand of any type, the most important thing is to be consistent. And the other thing is to be consistent across all channels that you participate in. So what that means is, whatever it is that you are doing and you are on Instagram, you want to be that same person on Twitter. You want to be that same person on YouTube. You want to be that same person, when you're performing live. Especially these days when everybody essentially is a broadcaster because of social media. The other thing I would say is that you want to make sure that, and not to say that you want to mimic them, but what I recommend anyone does is that they look at established brands. In your case, you're in the hip hop world, so I would look at not just established brands, but also brands that maybe are newer. So in other words, someone that maybe hasn't been around for a long time and had to navigate in the current space, and also brands that have been effective.
That makes sense.
And that do a good job in their branding. So any thoughts on artists that you think, not to say that he should mimic, but that he should look at as good examples of branding?
Well, I mean, number one, of course, Wu-Tang Clan. That's the perfect example of branding. You saw that W everywhere.
Yeah.
So that's a brilliant example right there. I mean, to a lesser extent, Naughty by Nature, they had a good run too, as far as their brand.
And if I could stop you for a moment, if you think about that for a moment, in both of those artists, obviously the Wu-Tang Clan had this iconic logo, that W.
Yeah.
But Naughty by Nature also had an amazing logo.
Okay.
So right,
Yep.
That they still use. So those two things are certainly something they have in common. But keep
Right,
going.
that's immediately identifiable to the artist, and that's what you have to do to stand out. It's vital.
And to kind of talk about, and you'll be very familiar with this artist, to talk about someone that's more current, someone like a West Side Gun, who recently signed to Shady Records. Certainly in a different lane than you. However, independent artists doing their own thing and really able to use visuals, sounds, to aesthetics, to really separate himself from the pack. I mean, a crowded pack of independent artists. And you might be able to talk a little bit more about that. Obviously, you've covered them for quite some time. What made West Side Gun distinctive? What helped them break away from the pack?
Well, I mean, the fact that they had a gritty style, I mean, which you could say a lot of artists have these days.
Yeah.
But it was also something I think they really leaned into the Colombian. It was all about a Colombian gangster edge.
Okay.
And what happened was that a lot of countries overseas started picking up on that and painting West Side Gun murals. And his partner Conway, they started painting murals of the artists and taking their artwork and just spreading it out overseas. So that's what happened. It started there.
That was cool.
Yeah, the visuals definitely stood out. They were definitely distinctive, and they would also use images from history, religion, and kind of give it their own spin. Definitely not the most orthodox approach, but it worked for them. So let's talk a little bit about other things that Face should be doing. One of those things in particular, and I'm sure that you're probably the biggest advocate for this, and everyone else, I'm sure you would agree, videos. You really have to have a video for every song today, right?
That's how I believe in it as well.
Indeed. So talk a little bit about what you would recommend as a video producer, what you would recommend for Face going forward in regard to producing videos from an independent perspective.
I always tell every single artist that I work with, we have to tell a story, because we can't just look into a camera and just repeat lyrics, because then all you're doing is just giving a performance, and then you're taken away from where your money can come from, where your revenue is on your live performances, because you have to tell a story. It's okay if you're like looking at a picture and you're like talking to the picture, but you're kind of like have to act in a music video. In a music video, it's acting. It's not. I don't know how many videos I see a day of people just looking into the camera, leaning up against a car, and just saying the lyrics that they wrote. That annoys me. You apparently wrote a song for a reason. Have that reason be the focus of your song, and create visuals. Like close your eyes and imagine what you were thinking when you were writing those lyrics.
Right.
What does that attach you? So when you are asking for a producer for a treatment, and things like that, then you'll find the person that is actually making that video for you, if they can hit the nail on the head without even having to talk to you, just by listening to your lyrics, and they giving you a treatment of things that you felt when you were writing that song, that's iconic.
Yeah, I believe that.
If I could just interject for one moment, I think again, I like to look at folks that are doing it, that have made it happen with limited resources, and it's worked. And I know you would both agree, Joyner Lucas is probably the best example right now,
Yes.
because
Hands
he
down.
made videos that literally felt like a cinematic experience.
Exactly.
And they weren't the most elaborate productions,
Nope.
but they were compelling. And you could keep going.
And no, that's the whole point. You're supposed to look at the video and be like, wow, I love that video. Like I always go back to this one music video that and it really inspired me was Nicky Romero and Cruella's song called Legacy. It told such an amazing story with a little bit of a performance in it, just a little bit. And the thing is that you get to the reveal at the end, and it's exactly like a film. For me, it was Hype Williams growing up, and I actually got to work with one of my mentors on campus. That actually he produced and directed some videos with Hype. So Carl Verna, and I even got to associate produce a music video recently with him. So he's all about that, and that's the reason why it's just like that telling of the story. Even though it's funny when I remember seeing Hype Williams. I know you guys can relate to this, and all of you guys. Basically, like, why would you have a black light walking through that's a club, and all their eyes, like that opening sequence in Belly was just like
It's stunning.
and
I mean, it just stands out.
everybody was trying to recreate that. No, don't recreate it. Use the same lighting techniques, but tell your own story.
Right.
I respect that.
That's why I tell everybody, it's like, there's a way you can do something similar and pay homage to it. Just don't do the same thing then, because then it's something that in the business, and like from where I come from, it's called biting.
Okay.
You don't bite somebody else's lyrics. You don't bite their style. You don't, you take their style and you change it to a different level, or it's inspired by that style, but you don't bite. You can't.
It's hard to
no.
differentiate yourself. If you look and you sound like everybody else, that means that there's a lot of replacements for you.
Oh yes.
So I think you're making life harder for you. It might be easier. I think some people think it's easier because you're doing something that's familiar, so maybe they would relate. But at the same time, if you kind of are doing the same thing that everybody else is doing, you just kind of blend in the crowd, and the ones with the biggest marketing dollars are going to be the ones that prevail. So as someone that has been involved with hip hop from the media perspective, whether it be on radio, online, and print, if you don't mind maybe sharing some tips to help get him established as his own brand within the eyes of the media?
Well, I would say first off, you need a distinctive image. Okay, you're saying that you're in a positive, conscious hip hop.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of groups coming out now who are doing that, as well as there have been in the past. So you need something that just brands you as face.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
So-
logo's a
the
big
logo
deal.
is
You got to
good,
get with the
but-
logo.
I'm working with
Lock that logo
Actually,
down.
Actually,
logo.
the funny thing is that because I remember we just had this conversation, because I remember the first time when he created his older EP from his other the lifestyle that he was leading before. I remember FaceTime just hit the new phone, all the new iPhones, and FaceTime was a new thing. It wasn't working properly, like every Apple thing.
FaceTime?
Yeah, it wasn't working properly at the time. But when I heard that, I'm like, dude, that's got to be the title of your EP, FaceTime.
Nice.
Because when people are looking up FaceTime on the internet, you're gonna pop up with them. And he was just like, you know what? I was like, I like that idea now. So I'm like,
Nice.
no worries, man. That's what I'm here for. And it was, and he came up with this with another. Who was the person that came up with that whole image with the
Steve G.
Steve G.
Yeah.
All right, so there was a clock there, so it's significant. So he couldn't get
Shout out to
sued
Big
by,
Steve
So shout out to Steve G. He had a clock with a Haitian flag wrapped right around it, and it was like on a desk, like the morning time when you wake up. Your alarm clock is, that's what I got from watching them. I was like, see, you took that to a whole nother level. That's exactly what you need to do when you're branding yourself. It's like, because you have to,
My bad. Interject. But even
No.
right now, I'm a storyteller. my music come from a place of testimony, a place of story. And it's hard for me as an artist to find somebody to be able to put my vision into film.
Right.
You know what I mean? I did run across people that was working with me, but then it comes budget as well. I'm a school teacher in the daytime, you know what I mean? So it's hard to really be able to put that image together.
But the great thing is, since you're a storyteller, you can create visuals that
I
are bringing
have.
that story to
Yeah,
life. I mean, I
I
always,
do.
I always hate seeing videos where you would have the MC and he's rhyming about a particular subject matter. Then you watch the video, it has nothing to do with what he's rhyming about.
The other thing is, if you think about that for a moment, you know, there's so many apps out there that let you create. So when we talk about video, I mean, we have a video producer, you know, on the table, but a video today could be almost anything. We have lyric videos. We have literally almost like vlogs where someone performs live. We have the traditional video. But I think that there's so many apps that let you take those visuals, as you were saying, that let you take maybe music and just create something that, you know, can be consumed visually, even if it's short form, even if it's not a full music video, even if it's a snippet. You know, in some cases that might even work better because it's made for places like Instagram. It's made for social media in a space where people are traditionally conditioned to not have to pay attention a long time.
To go off of that, I actually instantly, I just remembered watching, because I was looking for this music video to compare to, because I'm working with another positive hip hop artist right now for a music video, and I was looking specifically for the TOK called Footprints, and when I cry, you cry, we all cry. That was the chorus, but I didn't know they changed the name. So when I was looking for it, I just put the lyrics in, and it had two videos. Had the original one, and then the one when they had more money and they redid it and more animation, and it was more compelling.
They brought it to life.
They really brought that to life. So they even redid it, and both of them are still high numbers, but it's also TOK. But it's just like it's. The drastic from what they originally had, the concept was really simple, and they can do it like they did. It looked like it was shot with their home camcorder, and then when they did the other one, it was very heavenly. It had all the things, and it fired on the animations and everything like that. So from that aspect, and I understand that's from what you're saying. It's just, it gets boring if you just see somebody performing.
Right. But ironically, you said home camcorder. Today, everybody has a home camcorder in their pocket, and it's accepted. As much technology as we have, 4K video and all this stuff, most people are watching this content on a little tiny screen, and they're used to it being oriented the wrong way, and if it's compelling, it's compelling.
Right.
It's crazy that you say that because I do that. I have a campaign that I call Live in Full Effect. It's an acronym for life. So I record myself live while I'm out, wherever I'm at, if I'm on vacation, if I'm on a tour, if I'm at a show, and I wait till that night, put my footage together. I might add a performance in the mix of it, and I put it together and I put it online. It's just lately, Apple. I have a storage files that I haven't been able to put them out like I want. And I started this maybe way back, maybe in 2015. I was taping myself everywhere. Everywhere I was going, I was taping myself. I was recording myself. At the time, I didn't learn how to edit, and that was a problem for me to get it out. So I started teaching myself how to edit, and I started putting it out, and that's how I was keeping my content alive. So even though I may not have my one thing, my consistency was an issue.
I think that's how you build up your fan base.
Yeah.
They get to know you. They become familiar with you.
Yeah, and then that I mean, I know we're running out of time right now, but it's just content is king. And one thing of my biggest, I guess, regret is I have so much content, and I don't know what to do with it sometimes.
Gotta get
you
it
have
out.
to brand it, but if you just sit on it, that hurts more.
To quote one of my favorite marketing writers, and a lot of people's favorite marketing writers, Seth Godin, you got to ship it. And that is a good segue to ship FaceDaZoe's performance coming right up. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time on the Turntable. All right.